Good afternoon. My name is Melissa, and I will be your conference operator today. At this time, I would like to welcome everyone to the Noble hosted conference call. All lines have been placed on mute to prevent any background noise. If you should need assistance during the call, please press star, then 0, and the operator will come back online to assist you. Thank you all. Now I'd like to turn the call over to Mr. Scott Murray. You may begin your conference.
All right. Thank you, Melissa. I really appreciate that. First of all, we want to welcome everybody and thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come and meet with us here today and learn about and allow us to introduce Noble's Hosted Solutions to you. A couple things to go over. All the lines are on mute. There is a Q&A module at the top of your screen so that you can ask questions and I will answer them at the end of the presentation. If we run out of time, I'm not able to answer your questions, we will follow up with you individually. So I highly encourage you to use the Q&A button up there and ask questions, and you can even ask them as we go, and I'll answer them at the end. All right. Today's agenda is we're going to be going over our enterprise hosted solutions, or our cloud-based offerings. And first of all, we'll go over our communications as a service, or our CaaS offering, which is for our hosted agents. And then something that fits real well with our premise or some of our existing customers is a disaster recovery or cloud extended capacity, or as kind of a new buzzword in the industry, is a hybrid solution. Now, first of all, we'll start out with what is hosted. And the first thing that kind of, pops up is there's a lot of different terms in the industry that are used to somewhat define the different types of offerings. The fact is that some companies use on-demand hosted cloud SaaS and CaaS, and I'm sure there's others I don't have here. They can describe the same similar products or services, but in fact, it's just at the end of the day, you have to dig down, check each vendor, no matter what they call themselves, and find out that the product meets your needs. So it really, from a standpoint of the names or the terms that are used in the industry, they don't have a clear definition. So you just jump in and figure out what each of the different vendors are able to provide for you. Now, the other part of it is what are we replacing? As you see here, this is a diagram of a fairly sophisticated infrastructure and a premise-type solution. And I'm going to start the animation here. And you can see that the complexities of the premise environment, which is all the network routing, the servers, all the different software components that you have to deal with, and, of course, PBXs, and all that stuff moves into the cloud. And what's great about the hosted environment is its simplicity. You move all these complexities and move them out of your office, and those things become my challenges, which is where they should be. We're the experts that know the technology, so the value of that is it always makes more sense to put the technology where it belongs, which is with the people that actually have the most knowledge associated to it. And what's great about it is that we take all this infrastructure, replace it with that computer headset and internet connection, and all of these people can work from different locations. You can have remote home agents, you can have a traditional call center or outsourced call center, and they all can work from the cloud on the same campaigns, different campaigns. There's just so much flexibility with our hosted enterprise offering that it just brings out so many possibilities for you. But again, one of the most important parts about the cloud-based offering is its simplicity. Now let's talk a little bit about the industry trends. And Frost & Sullivan did a study, and everybody's, it's a buzzword for sure. The hosted contact center market is really alive and doing well. And with their projections, they project that it's going to double basically from the 2011 numbers, so 2012 to 2016. It basically is going to double. And that trend really makes a lot of sense because as we're going to go through the presentation here, we'll talk about some of these total cost of ownerships and some of the things that really make financial sense in dealing with a hosted environment. In fact, the premise industry is declining. So as you can see, the industry trends really are pushing to the hosted environment. First thing I want to talk about is our communications as a service, or CaaS offering, which is for our hosted agents. And we are an award-winning, field-tested, proven product. Now, we are new to the hosted offering industry, but the reason I can say that we're award-winning, field-tested, and proven is because we've actually had this product installed in premise locations where our premise customers were using it as a hosted solution for them. So it's something that we've been doing for 3 or 4 years now, and we've been able to develop it, perfect it, and really take it to another level so that at the end of the day, I get to sleep a lot more comfortable at night knowing that I've got a product that's out there being used that makes the hosted industry or our hosted offering a lot more solid and reliable. So that gives you some comfort in knowing that this is something that's been around for a long time. Matter of fact, we have a customer that has over 1,000 seats on this platform in the premise world. So what we've done is we just take the premise and brought it into the cloud from the technology standpoint. So what we like to say is we're not new to the hosted industry. We're just new to the hosted offering. Now, something that we're real proud of this year are hosted awards. First of all, we won an award for Product of the Year for our Cloud EC, which is our expanded capacity, which we're going to discuss a little bit later in the presentation. Next, we won an award for an Enterprise Hosted Technology Pioneer Award. And the fact is that in the hosted industry, it has evolved really to the beginning stages of maturity. Now, it's not reached a mature state from the marketing standpoint, but we're looking at it. We're peeking in, and the reason is because as it matures, the feature functionality sets and the enterprise-type offerings really start coming out into the industry and have real value for providing technology at the same level that the premise industry used to provide. And that's been one of the hits in the industry that has really set back some of the hosted acceptance is because it didn't really meet some of the premise requirements that are there. So we're really excited at being one of the pioneers as an enterprise hosted solution. Now, as part of that, we also have a complete enterprise solution, not just for predictive and ACD. We do messaging, agent workflows. We handle workforce management. It just goes on to the things that we provide for the call centers. So what I want to do is I'm going to pinpoint a couple areas that I want to talk about that I believe gives us some real advantage of the industry. First of all, we are an enterprise-hosted unified application. What that means is that all the applications that we utilize, we own the source code. We control the destiny of that application. We control the patents of these applications. Now, how does that help you? At the end of the day, you want to be with a vendor who has control of their own environment because a lot of the hosted industry has taken a PBX over here and a dialer over there and a recording solution from a different vendor, put them all together, and now they're in the hosted industry. And with us, that's just not the case. So we don't depend on other people to control our future, which in turn controls your future. And one of our first components here is our Composer Web Agent. This is browser-based, so you can use Safari or Internet Explorer or Firefox or any of the modern browsers out there. And then part of that is what we call our Composer Builder. Now, this is where the difference or competitive advantage that we have is in that Composer Builder, because you literally can start with a blank screen and create any interface you want. You can create any data dictionaries or any data tables that you want. And then you can have pictures. You can make things blank. You can have multiple pages. You can control that workflow of that interface any way you want to. Now, what's great about this product is that you are in control of that product. We send you to Atlanta for 5 days of training on our Composer Builder. And during that time, you're going to learn how to control and manipulate the system to meet your needs. Our system's flexibility really puts us apart from the rest of the industry. Now, part of being able to make those changes is it protects your future. So later on down the road, when you've got to make modifications, you don't have to come back to us. You actually can modify them yourself. So again, we look at that as a true competitive advantage. The next is our Maestro. This is where all the management tools are. This is where you have the campaign setups, where you input your agents, control their rights. You set up your IVRs, your ACDs, your calling campaigns, all the functionality to control or manage that call center is within our Maestro interface. Now, part of that, obviously, is real-time and historical reporting. And then we have a really cool tool for management dashboards that we call Harmony. And Harmony allows you to create a dashboard that you can see inbound queues. You can see hold times. You can see a real-time display of agents' activity. Matter of fact, we call it talking heads. And what it is you actually can see the faces of your agents Not that we always want to see the faces of our agents, but the fact is you can, and that has real value because you can associate a face to a name so that when you're out there on the floor, it really has a lot of value to be able to coordinate that type of situation. Also, these products, or this product, Harmony, will work on an iPad, it'll work on an iPhone, any of those types of tools. That way you can walk around the call center literally and monitor Coach Barge and listen to people from your iPad. Now also what's cool about the way we handle our dashboards and our reporting is it's based off of exception. So it's management by exception. And the fact is, we have call centers that have hundreds and even thousands of seats. And you cannot manage a call center by looking at 1,000 faces on a screen. So we have these flags that you can actually set. So for example, if you want your talk time to be a certain amount for a certain campaign for that agent, you can set that so that he only shows up on your dashboards based on the fact that he's exceeded that flag. So it has a lot of value of being able to manage by exception. Next is true blended communications. Now, we say that because true blended communications sometimes gets mixed in with blended agents. Now, we are blended agents, but the rest of the industry, there are times when that means something different than what it means to us. For example, there are some products out there where you literally will have a login for your inbound and then a login for your outbound. You have to switch. Well, they consider that a blended agent. Or you even have situation where you have two applications that they have to juggle. They may have to reject a call to take when they're in a predictive call. No, with us, that's not the case. That agent is sitting there, and one screen could be an inbound call. The next one could be an outbound call. The next one could be an opt-in off of an outbound messaging call, or it could even be an email prompt. So all that functionality occurs, and you control it through the Composer Builder so that those interfaces could look the same, or they could be different so they can differentiate for the agent what kind of calls coming in. Next, IVR and text-to-speech for inbound and outbound messaging. The depth of the product is really important because as an enterprise solution, IVR functionality is equal to anything out there. Then you throw in the fact that we have a really nice text-to-speech engine so that you can do outbound messaging. You could have IVR for self-help. What's kind of nice here is because our Composer Builder allows you to create a data dictionary. So you could have a field that says balance. Then you could take that balance, associate it to your text-to-speech and your IVR, and people could actually call in and check their own balance. So you can see when you start blending all of these types of technologies together, you really get a synergistic value out of them. Now next, outbound skills-based routing. You cannot run a 1,000-seat call center without skills-based routing. Because it's just too much to manage what individual agent is associated to an IVR. So an IVR comes in, you set the skill associated to the choices, and it only goes to the agents that are associated to that skill. That's a matter of getting the right customer to the right agent so that they can handle whatever issues are there. Next, 100% voice recording. Pretty common in the industry for everybody to provide that. Again, something that just sets us apart is that we have 25 meta tags for each of the recordings. And what those meta tags are just pieces of information. And what that helps you do is when, say, Betty calls in and she can't remember our conversation that was a month ago and somebody promises something that she didn't get. So you're able to actually find that recording, play it back to Betty, play it to the agent, and then find out what's going on. And we take it another step further. We also have a quality assurance management piece that's associated with that where you can create your own questions, you can create your own answers. And what's good about that is you can roll that up to the individual agent. So you could actually QA a bunch of his recordings and see where he sits. Then you could roll that up to the campaign, you could roll it to the group, to the call center, and then to the corporate level. So again, depth of that tool is really important. Next is workforce management and optimization. The thing that's unique about our workforce management and optimization is that it not only handles the inbound based off of historical information that projects the future, it also allows you to implement an outbound strategy. And the reason is because with inbound campaigns, you'll have the highs and the lows and the troughs and the valleys. And what we want to do is we want to smooth that out. And what that really means is we want productivity out of those agents during downtime for them inbound campaigns. So you're able to actually use the tool to do that. You also can't run a 1,000-seat call center without workforce management and scheduling those agents to make sure that you're covering all the things that you need, whether it's for inbound and outbound. And again, this is not a third-party integration. This is our product, something we control and we maintain. All right, next. Our hosted infrastructure. I tell you what, we have spent a tremendous amount of money and time in our infrastructure, and it really is second to none. We've actually have 2 locations actually as well. But first of all, we do handle all the data backups, so you don't have to worry about any of that. And then in our primary building, we have 2 generators. We have one that is for the entire building, and then we have one that's specifically for us. It's a diesel 24/7 type generator. And then we have uninterruptible power supplies for all of our components. It's actually a system. So that if there's a brownout or we lose power, they take over. They're in line, so they take over. And then within about 15 seconds or so, the generator kicks on, and then we're up and rolling on backup power. Next is firewalls. And I tell you what, this is a big one because security is such an issue. And there's so many people out there that are just trying to hack into anything to get into any kind of information they can. And we hear it every day about some big company that their information got sent out to the public. Well, we actually outsourced our firewall controls to a third party. The reason we did that is because the expertise of the daily updates and all the things that have to be taken care of for these firewalls is something that we're leaving to the expertise or the experts, because it's just something that is so changing that it's got to be a dedicated type effort. So we've got the firewalls outsourced. Redundant servers. And actually we have redundant everything. There isn't one component that doesn't have a backup component. But within our servers, mirror drives, dual power supplies, dual network cards, we dual everything. Next is multiple paths, and this is really a big one. Of course, we've got the power from the grid and then the multiple generators, but then we also have multiple paths into our building with fiber, and then we have a microwave on our roof as well. So that allows us, if a fiber cut occurs on one section coming into our building, then the other fiber just takes over. But not only do we have multiple paths for connectivity, we have multiple LD providers and multiple internet service providers. That way, if there's an issue with the vendor, then we swap right over to the next vendor and we just keep rolling. Next is certifications. Oh, one thing that's not on here, our secondary colo facility has come online. So we have 2 colos now. We have one that is on our primary headquarters, and then we have another that is in the southern portion of Atlanta. And it's a bunkered facility, and it meets all the requirements for PCI and all the certifications that we have as well. Now, certifications, we are PCI DSS certified. This is a distinction because you see a lot of the industry that say they're compliant. Well, the fact is we actually have a certification. The difference is that we've spent the money and the time to make sure that there are no holes in our PCI compliance. So that PCI certification is a definite distinction from the industry. Say we're certified for PCI for SAS 70. We're in the final stages of our certification, so we are SAS 70 compliant. But it actually is sitting in the hands of the auditors, so we should have that here any day. Next, and why most people really look at the hosted industry are the financial advantages. And the very first thing that pops up is no capital expenditure. And what that really means, as much as anything, it falls right into the total cost of ownership. So you get the tax benefits for operational costs instead of having to spend cash out of your pocket. You get to keep your cash, and then you just write off the expenses as they go. Now, I'm not a tax attorney or accountant, but this is probably one of the leading reasons people go to a hosted environment. Now, next is no maintenance or upgrade fees. The no maintenance part is real simple. It's black and white. You can see it on your invoices. And with us, we just have a per-seat charge, and so there's not a separate maintenance charge for our hosted offering. But the one thing you can't see is the upgrade fees. And the reason is because in 3 to 5 years, you cannot project the future to determine, do I have to bring a forklift in and take that equipment out and go throw it in the dumpster? Well, the fact is that in 3 to 5 years, that probably will be required. And the reason is that technology is changing so fast, and it continues to change quickly, that you're going to want the latest and the greatest and the newest stuff because it's going to help productivity. So what happens? You end up having to spend a lot of money to go through this upgrade fees. Well, with a hosted environment, all you have is a computer, a headset, and internet connection. The rest of the equipment we handle in the background and all the software. So if there's some major change in the industry, we have to maintain or stay on the leading edge of the industry. Otherwise, we'll lose customers or won't be able to gain any. So you get the advantage of not having to worry about that upgrade fee scenario. If you put it to pen and paper and look at the upgrade fees it would take to upgrade your system, a lot of times there is no decision between a hosted and premise environment. Next, reduced infrastructure cost. As we looked at the infrastructure, significant investment. First of all, if you take your premise world, immediately would double your cost because you have to double all the equipment. Secondly, you've got maybe a secondary location, like we have 2 colos. So then you have to worry about within the facilities, do you have a server room, power for that server room, and then cooling. We have multiple AC units for our facilities. Then next is no T1s, and this is really important because now that we handle your long distance as your hosted provider, you don't have a finger-pointing situation because I think anybody that's dealt with the call center industry in the premise world has had run into a situation where the LD guy says it's not his fault and the hardware guy says it's not his fault, and so you got finger-pointing going on. And then we hope it's just, it's the right finger, it's not the other one. But the facts are is that now when you have a problem, you don't have to figure it out. You call us, and it's our problem to resolve, and you've got one person you have to deal with, or one company. Next is IT value transformation. That's a fancy phrase for saying that we're going to give your IT people something to do that helps you make money. Now, at the end of the day, if we're taking all this infrastructure and moving it into the cloud and you keep the simplistic part of it there, you may be able to reduce some of that IT cost. And an IT person can range from $2,000 to $5,000 in a month. So you could see that that could have a significant impact. Now, I'm part of IT, obviously, so I always like the idea of using them for something to make more money instead of reduction. But that is something that has real value and total cost of ownership impact. Next is time to benefit. Fact is with the hosted environment, we can deploy much faster than in the premise world, so you get the benefit of the expense much quicker than you do in a premise world. Next is start on hosted and move to premise. Now, this is unique to us because since we came from the premise world and we use the exact same solution that we use in our premise world for our hosted deployment, you can start with hosted and then figure out if you like us and see if the product does what you need, and if everybody's happy, then you could decide to move to premise. And what's great about that is we could come out there and install your equipment, and then overnight or over a weekend, we could download that software, and we could download the data, and the next day that your agents and your managers come in, they're working off the exact same platform, interfaces, and strategies that you had before. You don't have to retrain, no change in process of procedures, and anytime you change vendors, there's always challenges associated to that. Now we solve it. Start with a hosted, and if you want to, you move to premise. Expansion and detraction. I'll tell you what, that probably should be right at the top, because in our today's economic times, it definitely, the flexibility and scalability side of the host environment really plays into business strategies. For example, on the expansion side, you may have somebody come to you with a test that they want to run for 30 or 60 days, and if you're in the premise world, try to get that done and incur those costs just can be prohibitive at the end of the day. With hosted, that's not the case. You literally can call us with a short period of time. We're able to get the system addition. Say if you need 25 seats, boom, within 30 days, we can get all that in place. And we can get it done quicker, but those are the kinds of things that it's just a matter of working out in our contractual details. Detraction, same. As part of our agreements, we can set it up so you have a minimum amount of seats, and then you can expand and detract as much as you want within those monthly periods. Now, the detraction side of it is obviously just about money cost savings. With today's times, you get a customer and calls you, hey, we got to cut back 25 seats or 50 seats, and all of a sudden you're sitting with this infrastructure and everything that says that you're paying for no offsetting revenue. With the hosted environment, you just give us a call and you're able to cut it back. Next is a built-in disaster recovery. Now, again, as a financial advantage, we've talked about the hosted infrastructure. We've talked about the costs associated with that. So it's very difficult to measure the level of disaster recovery, and it's almost like an insurance policy. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into our hosted disaster recovery offering, and the first thing that I always ask about is, do you have a disaster recovery plan now? Any kind of plan. And the fact is that most companies do or do not. And it's really important to at least have some level of a plan. Next is, have you tested that plan? And you start out with 100 people, you ask if they have a disaster recovery plan, you may get 20 that says they have one. You say, have you tested it? You may get that down to 10. And then the next one is, do you have a disaster recovery plan that includes total devastation? And the term is the smoking hole kind of theory. And the fact is there's very, very few people that have that disaster recovery plan level. And with hosted, it becomes a lot easier. Now, our Noble disaster recovery solution is customized. And the reason it is because it has to be designed to meet each client's needs and budget. And this is really important, needs and budget. Because I'll give you a little example. When I was a kid, I had a really fast car. And my dad, I'd always complain, Dad's not fast enough. And my dad his response was always the same. Son, speed costs money, how fast you want to go. And that applies perfectly here. Because the fact is that you can have a complete disaster recovery plan that is everything from I'm going to pull trailers in here and put my agents in trailers with computers on them. Or I can have a partial disaster recovery plan that says, I'm going to send 10 agents home and they have computers at home that they could actually connect into the cloud and then take over. Or even something as simple as I'm just doing replication for the hosting portion of it. So there's all these different ranges. And what we're able to do is really we sit down with you, determine what it is your goals are, and start giving some budgetary information to you so you can make decisions on what level of disaster recovery you need. Now, why does this make sense? Because we're able to leverage our hosted infrastructure. We have all this capacity. We have all these systems there. We have SIP throughout our entire product. So it makes it a lot easier to implement disaster recovery because that premise system matches our hosted environment because they're the same. So it's real simple to set up an MPLS or a VPN network so that they can communicate to each other for real-time replication. So if something happens with your premise phone, you just click over and you start using the other system. Now, it could be associated through your telco or hardware failure, or you end up with some issue at your facility. But again, this is just something we sit down with you, we go over what your needs are, and then we determine really the next steps for it. Next is our hosted extended capacity, or as a new term that's kind of come out, the hybrid solution. And again, this is something that's kind of an advantage for us. It's not something that most companies can even offer. And we look at this as our easy button for adding cloud-based capacity to your premise-based solution. Now, we can do that for agents and or message blasting. Now, how do we do it? What we do is we simply set up a Symphony server, which handles all the voice trafficking. We set that up in the cloud. And we connect to your system through MPLS or an internet, VPN internet connection. And that Symphony server has access to all the phone lines, and then through that MPLS connection can connect to your agents for voice. But what's great about it is it's taking advantage of your premise-based host. So you've got your host sitting over in your premise, sitting in your office. We have that Symphony server in the cloud, and now they can communicate, and you can take advantage of additional capacity in the cloud without having to spend a ton of money or increase your infrastructure or deal with other T1 providers. So a true advantage. Now, what is the advantage of hosted EC? No additional lines or equipment to purchase. We put that Symphony server up there, we take care of it from that standpoint. Next is on-demand agent and line capacity. So that way, it's easy for you to add agents. It's easy to add additional lines for if you're doing message blasting, especially when we've got these seasonal things that are coming up like the elections and all the political things that are going on right now. But as we said, this is so that you can use your same Maestro, your same interfaces that you use today. And you do it from sitting in the same office. Nothing changes. You got the same campaigns, IDRs, recordings, data, interfaces, text-to-speech we can apply to the Symphony server in the cloud. And you have complete visibility for all the same reporting you use today. You can actually view the additional lines and agent activity on your interfaces and see what's happening in the cloud, just like it's sitting in your office. Now, what that do for you, it can improve your customer service sales. If you get some spikes in your business or if you have seasonal patterns and you need to move quickly, there's things that we can do to set that up quickly because it's pretty simple. And then, of course, if you implement home agents as part of some of these patterns and you don't have that capability built in, then we can set that type of environment up as well. So our cloud-based extended capacity, we truly look at as a separation for us in the industry, whether you're looking for premise solutions or hosted or the hybrid combination. All right. Well, that concludes our Q&A or our presentation today. And so now I'm going to open up for some questions and see if there's any questions. I do have some that came in ahead of time. And Kelly, there was a couple of questions that you had as well. Do you have those there?
Yes, I do. Let's see here. These came in earlier on. One of them was how small do you need to be to, or does it work for a small center, a hosted solution?
Yeah, that's a good thing about hosted. Now, there's some economics to it a little bit, especially from an enterprise-type offering that can come into play. But really, the size of your call center isn't as much of an impact as your needs or is our functionality feature sets that you need. Realistically, probably, 10 seats is probably the kind of number that you'd look at for our hosted offering. You could do 5. It really could go down smaller, but it really comes down to the needs that you have, because we're going to be able to provide services as this hosted offering, as an enterprise hosted offering that most companies cannot. So that's really as much as anything is what it comes down to. There was another one that you had there, Kelly?
Yes. Let me see if I can pull up the report really quick. It's taking me a little one more minute. If you can go ahead and answer another question, I can get to this one.
I've got some that I had here as well. How does the technology help us with capacity sizing? Again, that comes down to individual needs. From a hosted environment, it's real simple. From a hybrid-type solution, it makes it so that we can put that Symphony server up in the cloud, and you can add agents and message blasting lines or whatever capacities you may need. So it really gives you a lot of flexibility. Next is how would this integrate with CaaS and screen popping? And the fact is our product, our Composer product, is designed for integration. We've got a lot of Fortune 500 companies that we deal with. They have products that they already utilize or they have in-house, homegrown, and we have so many options. We could do WindScrape. We can embed Java into our Composer builder. We can do HTTP post. So there's so many things that we can do. We also have part of our Composer is a complete API. So if you have a product that you have control over, then you're actually able to embed the code within your API. So that makes it very open. And that's one of the things that really sets us apart as a very open platform. Let's see. Could agents which are at different locations use this application? How would it work with CaaS? Now, I think that what that question is asking is if I have a product that I'm not sure about, like CaaS, is it something that could be integrated with in a hosted platform? Well, that's not a limitation from our side. It really comes down to what that product's capabilities are. Now, in most cases, there's a solution for about anything you want to do. And, for example, you could even use a terminal server to utilize the CaaS and integrate into our product. So there's a lot of options that you could do if it wasn't capable of the web interface. So, again, that's just something we sit down with you, we figure out what it is your product is capable of doing, like CaaS, and then we come up with a plan. So far, we believe that we haven't come up with anything that we can't solve. Performance difference between hosted and premise. Again, as I've talked about, there is no difference between our hosted platform and our premise platform. The functionality, feature sets, and performances are the same. Let's see, how is the customer data protected in your hosted solution? We talked about those firewalls. We also have encryption on our systems, and part of the PCI certifications to make sure all that's in place. All right, I do have a couple other questions that's popped up here. Let's see. Do you have any newspaper using the cloud-only offering? We don't have a newspaper company using it today. I do have some opportunities that are in the pipeline for newspapers that for selling the subscriptions over the phone and stuff. So there are some opportunities there, and there's no reason that it wouldn't work for you for a newspaper environment. Matter of fact, it'd be really strong for that because you can have multiple call centers and multiple groups working off of one platform. And I know part of that newspaper you run into some DNC issues, and we got some really cool stuff with a company called Possible Now that allows us to do automated updates associated to your DNCs and your cell phone issues and things like that. So there's a lot of value in utilizing that as a kind of a shared platform, so to speak. Let me look here. Got another one? We are a current TouchStar user. Would it be safe to say transition to your cloud solution would be easier than from a competitor product? You know, the thing or the advantage that you would have with that is that the TouchStar platform, we would have all the information associated to your data structures and being able to move your campaigns over. There would be professional services associated to that, but it would definitely be something to be easier to do since we already have the knowledge and the expertise from the TouchStar side. I am seeing a lot of this where we have some of our customers that are moving from some of the other platforms into our cloud offering. So it is something that is becoming pretty commonplace.
Scott, I do have this other question up now.
Thank you.
Okay, it says, I'd like to hear about how the scripting software works along with the databases it's aligned to.
Oh, that's great. That's the one thing our Composer Builder does really well. It allows you to utilize a database in your facilities, pull information from it, and post information to it as well. HTTP post, HTTP get. WinScrape allows you to grab information from one application and transition it back and forth. So it is built for that concept. And it has a tremendous amount of value, and we truly believe that's really what sets us apart, is that we give you the tools to develop it. We don't just say, okay, here you go, good luck. Or, hey, this is the static interface, and you've got 2 applications. You actually can make them work together, or you can make them work separate. It really is part of how you want the final result to be. So we look at that as a serious competitive advantage and something we'd love to show you. All right, what is the approximate cost to switch over as an existing client using Maestro? That's dependent. The version of Maestro that you're on is probably the biggest issue. If you're on one of the more current versions, then that transition would be much easier. If you're on an older version and there's not an automated transition, you'd have to recreate it. But again, it just depends on what Maestro version you're on. And again, that's something you definitely want to get with your sales account manager. We'll get on the phone with you. We'll come meet you. We'll come sit down with you, figure out what it is you have and what's going to take you to the next place. And it don't cost you anything to figure it out. We'll jump in and see what we can do for you from that standpoint. All right, next, how does the cloud-based solution integrate with collection systems for call results and campaign builder? Also, is the support different than the TouchStar support? The first question is the call results in the campaign builder, that can be integrated to whatever level you want. And the flexibility of our product is such that it allows that integration to whatever level you need. So if you want to result the call in your collections piece, then that actually could update our system, or you could have our system update your system. So the flexibility to go either way is there, and the reason it's got to be both ways is because some products aren't capable of one way or the other, and where we are, we're going to be able to solve those types of issues one way or another. And then also support different than TouchStar support. It is. Our hosted support is part of our Noble platform. So it's under our standard normal support for our Noble platform because we come from that. So it's a different group of people. We have a specific group that handles TouchStar, and then we have a group that handles our Noble platform support. And so you would fall right into, which is the majority of our customers is the Noble platform. So that would make a little bit of a change there for you. Let's see. So my question is the scripting process more point, click, and drag versus sophisticated program? Absolutely. That is what's really cool about that product. You do not have to be a programmer. Now, does it help to be a programmer? Sure it does, because you could take it to a whole other level if you get into the programming side. But there's no question, as a user, once you go through the training, you can absolutely create any interface you want and flow that you want, database tables, and you can interact and utilize those how you wish. It's something that you don't have to be a programmer for. So it's a very strong tool for the non-programmer type. All right, I think that's all the questions I have here. Is any other questions out there? All right. Well, I do want to thank everybody very much for taking your time out of your schedules today and spending the time with us. And we really look forward to hearing from you. If there's any questions you have, be sure to email us at info@noblesys.com. Give us a call. Ask for Scott Murray. And we definitely will be glad to meet with you, talk with you, discuss anything you'd want to on the phone or in person as well. So everybody have a great week. And, again, thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining today's conference call. You may now disconnect your lines.